There we go. There is the precious ding that lets the world know that driving it home with the professor has returned. We have a much higher tech setup for everybody. You have no clue how a giant pain in the ass this has been to get this set up, but my fans need me in better quality, and I bring to you a woman who understands the quality of podcasting. Uh, she may be queen of the nerds or geeks. I don't know. She'll be able to let us know what she is or is not. Um, Elaine Stryker. I used to know her as Elaine. I'm probably gonna butcher your last name, but Garbarine,
You
maybe.
did it right. I'm so
Nice.
impressed.
See that? That's my. You're Italian, right?
I know. I was about to say, if you get this wrong, like I'm gonna be really
I know. Yeah, my
disappointed.
father will come back and be like really upset at me. Uh, so Elaine is it's kind of like the Marines. You're never an ex-student.
Yeah.
You're just a student, ready to come back. I had an interesting conversation with another old student, and it's funny because people always, uh, is it okay if I come back? No,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna hit you with a stick when I see you. So don't bother. You know. Um, but Elena contacted me on Facebook and she says, "Hey, I want to come back and I want to start training." And I go, "Of course, come back." And she's a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She has some rank in judo, and she'll go into that in a second. Don't interrupt me, Elaine. She also, I believe, is a black belt in Taekwondo. Mother of two, full-time job. Let's say I know she's gotten into powerlifting lately. Does a couple podcasts. Is probably better at video games than most of the guys watching this. So really, really cool chick. Somebody, like me, Elaine and I text back and forth about microphones and mixers and ground fault isolators, and if she had one. It's one of the few people that I know that. If anybody has one, Elaine might have this piece of equipment that I used. And anyway, so that's Elaine in somewhat of a nutshell. Anything we missed there, Elaine?
I think that's it. You did it. I'm impressed. That's a lot of stuff. Like I'm one of those people who stretches out into so many different things that people are just like, they grab like one or two and hold on to those, and they can't remember the rest of it, which is fine. I'm impressed. You
No,
hit
no,
it all.
you tick off a lot of boxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and there's a lot of interesting things kind of going on in your life, socially, professionally, physically, from a standpoint of like athletics and all that other stuff. But you just recently, it was about 2 weeks now, started back on a regular basis doing
Hmm.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yep.
After what about well, so it's like technically, I guess, like a 4 year layoff from jujitsu, but you were doing judo and
Hmm.
maybe some other things in the meanwhile. But from a standpoint of, say, someone that is was in your shoes, right, and they're like, man, what kind of concerns did you have upon coming back?
It's always, my biggest concern is always because I have two little kids. My youngest is just under 3, and my oldest is just under 5. So it's always the, if I commit to something, can I do it? Can I consistently do it? That's always the worry. And it was one of those things I said to my husband. I'm like, I miss this. I switched to night workouts, and I would drive by NJMA every night and go, that looks like fun, but I'm gonna go deadlift now. It'll be fine. And then I would drive back and be like, no, that looks way more fun than what I just did. Like I missed it. But I remember saying to Don, like, if I commit to doing this, 'cause I don't like to do something I can't commit to. I'm just one of those people, I'm kind of all in. I was like, if I do this, am I going to be able to bookmark the time out to do this? And his immediate response was, this made you so happy. Like, go, be free, get out of the house, leave me alone. I think is what he was thinking. But
No, no, that's awesome. I think like I didn't train today. I showed up.
yeah, you were there.
I didn't even open the doors, but we were talking about this kind of uh, for marital advice for people when your spouse wants to get into something that's kind of physical fitness related. Be supportive. My
Hmm.
wife wanted to start running. I supported her. I'd go. I'd help her stretch before her run. I'd help her stretch after, and all these other things. And she did a 5K. She did an 8K. It's been a little cold now, so she's kind of taking a little break from that. But I think as kind of and I have the luxury of running my school, uh, so I have to do what I do for a living. But I really see that the people that kind of can keep an identity in their marriage have things outside of their relationship that kind of help define them in the relationship as well. What are your thoughts on that?
it's super. I think the marriages that work are the ones where everybody's willing to give and take, right? To be able to say like, I want to do this thing because it makes me happy, and the other person be like, well, then we'll figure out how to make it work, you know? And it's especially important once you have children to have some sort of identity outside of just being a parent. Like it's you get sucked into this black
Wait,
hole
you're
of
not mommy, mommy, mommy,
right,
mommy,
right,
mommy,
like
mommy.
mom, mommy, mom. Oh my god. Like I love my kids, but sometimes you just want to go and be a different person for that hour, and it resets your brain and it chills you out and it puts life into kind of perspective and lets you just be like, okay, cool. My kid's being a jerk today. It's not the end of the world. We'll work through it. You know what I mean? So for me, I need something. I need to be somebody else besides just mommy or just, this engineer who works too. I need something that defines me and just me. That's just mine. So jujitsu or lifting or something. And it has to be physical or I have like a ton of like anxious, nervous energy that I need to get out. So, I think it's important. You have to have an identity outside of your marriage and your kids. You
No,
got it.
but I mean that leads to an interesting question. Now, when you say just yours, is this something if Don said, "Hey, you know what? I'd like to take jujitsu as well." Would you be like, "Well, you have to find a different school," or "No, jujitsu's my thing," or
No,
something like
that's
that?
yeah, no, that's kind of crazy. I've kind of got the benefit of being like Don and I are super different people, so I have like a checkbox of things that I do that he doesn't really do. So if he wanted to do jujitsu, I'd be like, that's fine. I still have, you still have pieces that you can do of other things for by yourself. Like it's just nice to have something that feels like it was mine before my kids. And even like, because martial arts I've been doing my whole life, it was mine before my marriage. It's part of me, not part of my marriage necessarily, if that makes sense.
No, I understand, and I
Yeah.
kind of think the same thing with mine. I've been doing martial arts way longer than I've been married, but it helps define the strength of the relationship.
Hmm.
You kind of can lean on those lessons learned in martial arts and getting, going through the tough times and all those other things. Because look, at the end of the day, as much as it's like a physical endeavor, and you try to become this super tough person or this, whatever it is that you kind of become as a fighter or as a, like a self defense expert. If it's not transferring over into your ability to better deal with, in your case, your husband, in my case, my wife, or you being an engineer, or me running a business and all that other stuff, then it's kind of, the benefits of the martial arts are wasted if they're only just physical for you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think martial arts are special in that way because they really do, if you do it properly, they help you manage life. They can help you manage life. They can help you like put things in perspective and deal with stress. And if you just treat them as like, I'm going to do this until I'm completely like exhausted and then I'm going to go to bed and that's it, you're not reaping all the benefits that they have for you. Like they should be a learning experience. They should teach you life lessons. I think if you have a good instructor and you're in the right mind space, that's what should happen. So,
So I kind of recall, I'm not going to say your parting conversation with us because we've stayed in somewhat contact over
mhm.
the last however many years. Um, a lot easier to stay in contact with you when I see you in class and I'm
Yeah.
looking to rip your face off. It's way more fun.
Oh, I love you
Um,
too.
but if I'm not mistaken, you were like, "Hey, Marco, I can't train anymore. Why? Is everything okay? I'm having a baby." So
Yeah.
it was like one of those things where I'm like, "That's awesome. Oh, but she's not going to be here, which sucks." So
Yeah.
it kind of having your son Nate, right? Nate or Nathan?
Mhm.
What do you Nate?
It doesn't matter. It
Doesn't
depends on
matter.
my mood.
Okay.
Nathan when he's in trouble.
All right.
You know.
All right. So he's a cute little boy. Likes, what is it? Zombies versus plants.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
So that kind of pulled you away, and that's a good thing because you got a chance to start your family and
Mhm.
all that other stuff. But so you have your son, and kind of what's life been like for the last 4.5 years?
It's weird because I had Nathan and then I came back off and on or I did a couple other things in between and I got pregnant kind of quickly with my second. Like they're 23 months apart. So it felt like for a couple years in there I just kind of lost me and you were just kind of surviving on instincts of like I'm someone's mother, I have two tiny people I need to keep alive, first of all. And like, help grow and like learn things that are important. So I made the mistake of sinking far down into that hole and letting being mom take like it took over. You know what I mean? So I lost a lot of me in a couple of those years and it took a really long time to sort of drag back some of those pieces of who I was before I had kids, and make myself like not just mom again. You know what I mean?
Well, no, it's funny because I talk to my friends and I say I'm a hell of a dad, but I'm terrible at being a mom. So I can't I don't I can't kind of I understand from a perspective of like identity and all that other stuff, but you know, what aspects did you feel that you lost? Like, you know, what was it? What were some of the things tangibly where you're like, hey, I missed this, or, you know, being a mom is awesome. Obviously, you know, we love our kids and
Mm-hmm.
all that other stuff. But what did you miss about, you know, not being a mom or
I,
just
you know,
being you? You know?
it's some of the freedom to do what I wanted to do. That's really hard to cope with when you first lose it. Like, I would go out to jujitsu and I would stay there for open mat, until 9 o'clock at night, and then roll back in the house, take a shower, and just hang out. Like I can't do that stuff anymore, man. I can kind of do that certain nights, but then there are children running amok in my house, probably tying up my husband and taking over the joint. I love him, but he's the softie. I'm like, I'm home, go to bed, But there's a freedom issue that you lose, I think, to just decide I want to take a nap, I want to eat now. It'd be lovely to be able to eat when I wanted to eat without people stealing my food. I want to go to jiu-jitsu and stay there for longer. The freedom was the hardest thing for me to lose, and then the worry takes over. I am one of those people, I'm like an anxious person to begin with. So when you have kids, it's like magnified by 4 million. Oh my God, every little thing, especially with the first one. Like I was
Yeah,
worried,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
You kind of learn once you have two kids, you
Mm.
learn what falling really is.
Yes.
You
Oh,
know what I'm saying?
yes.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
It's
those were just elbows and wrists. Wait, if you hear a
yeah,
thud, that's the head. That's the one to worry
yeah,
about.
and you wait for the scream. That 2 second pause, beat, beat. No, we're cool. They're not
Yeah, yeah,
screaming.
yeah,
There's no
yeah.
blood. You know what I mean?
No, right.
But like, there's a lot of worry involved, and sometimes it just takes you over mentally, and it wears you out. And you get to the end of the day, and you're just like, I don't have any mental energy left for myself. I just don't. I'm done. I'm ready to go to bed. I just don't have it anymore. So I think I miss not having that overwhelming sense of like anxiety and worry about other people. You know?
Well, right, but I mean, it does. In I'm hoping, right? Maybe I'm assuming you're not like a sociopath.
No.
Um, but so some of the things you lose, you gain with that kind of, it's unbelievable. Kind of when you look at your children, how much you can love one person or
Mm-hmm.
two. In our cases, two people that you're like, yeah, okay, I would push people into fires for you.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's a really intense feeling to be like, you make me nuts, but I love you more than I can even put into words. Like it's a weird sensation. I think that's why the worry is there, because you're like, I can't imagine not having you. So it's like, a really anxious.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
when I was driving over today, they had all that ice and stuff, and I'm like, normally I could care less, but normally 5.5 years ago, I
Right. See.
wouldn't have mattered. It's
Yeah.
like, who would miss me? My mom, maybe. My wife, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I was like, I would miss not. I would miss my kids not having me around if I did something stupid on,
Exactly.
like an icy road or that kind of thing. So I totally get it. So you're climbing back. You're trying to reclaim parts of your life that kind of got. We're not going to say taken away, but become adjusted through
Mm-hmm.
parenthood. Like we do with our microphones. You're adjusting levels now of
Yeah.
kinds of things that
That's.
are acceptable. Like for me, what I kind of miss is being able to just say, "Hey, let's go to Vegas for 4 days."
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, 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 like
Let's go to Cape May. Let's go to Atlantic City just for one night.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
I haven't done that. I have never. I don't think I've ever traveled away from my kids yet. They're still a little,
yeah, yeah,
little.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where
Yeah.
that, like for me, that's probably the biggest thing. And now I travel a lot less professionally and even socially, just because I don't want to be away from my family.
Same.
So
Yeah. Same deal. Absolutely.
so in this time where you were kind of trying to, it took you 4.5 years to redefine yourself, to redefine or define your refine. Anyway, so what have you been doing? So you got pregnant. You got pregnant again. You almost had Irish twins, but there
No,
was
it was
two
close.
years in between.
Yeah.
Um, but you were doing some, you were staying active physically. I
Hmm.
saw, you were doing some judo, you were doing some Olympic lifting. So tell the fine folks all about that.
I think I didn't commit to anything until Caitlin was around 6 or 9 months old. And my friend, an old friend I had, my friend Will from college, he runs the judo club at Drexel in Philly right now. So he messaged me, and he was like, look, come hang out once or twice a week. It's from 8 to 10, which was convenient because the kids were in bed, or at least one child was, so Don didn't have to battle both, alone. So I did about a year of judo, and I hurt my knee, and I got scared because it was one of those things where I hurt my knee, and I fell asleep on the couch after judo. I didn't even think about it, and then my 9-month-old cried in the middle of the night, and I went to go up the stairs to get her and just went right down. Like my leg was like, nope. So it's terrifying as a mom. You're like, man, I can't get to my kid. So I took some pity time off, was a baby. And then I started lifting. I started figuring, you know what, I'm afraid to do anything else right now. I'm not ready to commit to anything else. I'm going to go back to the gym and I'm going to deadlift and squat and bench and power lift. And that made me feel really good about myself, but it's not the same. It's really hard to explain. There's something like really just, it feels good to train jiu-jitsu because it shuts my brain off of all the anxiety. I just have to focus on that one thing. So
and the training, and I started off in judo, and I love, like I have a deep connection to the Philadelphia Judo Club. And
yep, same here.
But you don't get that same feeling with judo, or is it different?
It's a little bit different. It always feels a lot more dangerous, judo, and it's not that that's a bad thing. It's just that you always feel like you're in this constant state of extreme peril. Like jiu-jitsu is
dangerous. So people are clear. Dangerous of getting yourself hurt, not dangerous
yes.
if you become this lethal weapon.
Yeah, because I'm terrified. All 140 pounds of me is gonna murder everyone. No. It's always. I always felt like I walked into every class with the possibility of getting seriously hurt. Like just because you're in the air and anything can kind of happen. Even with really good people. So
right. And I, like I'm fortunate. Man, the last 2 practices I went to the Philadelphia Judo Club, I hurt 2 people.
Yes, you feel it. Yes.
And it's just like, and it wasn't fair. Like I'm wearing a white belt, so it's kind of not, it's not indicative of what I'm capable of. But
right.
But regardless, but yeah, I kind of see where you're going because especially those dynamic, and judo's phenomenal. It's amazing, and it's a great foundation, and it's a part of the things that we do, but it's not all that we do. But that. Kind of, man, you get old quick,
Yeah.
They're like dog years,
Yeah, especially once you especially if you're me and I've had 2 kids and my body's kind of beat up from that and your tendons are stretchier and it's just like when you're in midair you're thinking, boy, I hope this doesn't end up being a concussion today. I have to drive home. It's just one of those sports and I think it's amazing and fun and explosive and I've always had good training partners. It's just that it happens. You blow out a knee, you get, you land on your head. It's when your feet are off the ground, so much more can go wrong,
Right.
So
yeah, and it's funny because I did a while back. I kind of compared wrestling and judo, and I didn't want to offend any of the judo guys, but I kind of at this point in my life I prefer wrestling to get people down to the ground than over judo, just from a standpoint of how much easier it is on me as opposed to the judo is on me, that kind of thing. So especially this, I keep telling everybody I'm like the old guys that I used to laugh at. It takes them 20 minutes just to get their first match going. So
yeah, I get up and down. I think I like judo, especially in jiu-jitsu, because I feel like it's my one great advantage. It's that one thing that I have that I can make people want to quit in a competition situation having it, but constantly training it, I just don't think I can do anymore. It's nice to have the base and to use it, but I just can't do it every week, week in and week out anymore. It's just.
So you were doing judo, you hurt your knee, and then you got involved in some Olympic lifting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were you doing the Olympic lifting at the club in Morristown? They have an Olympic lifting team.
They have it's either Olympic lifting or powerlifting. There is a team somewhere. I never visited them. It was just in a conventional gym, but we'll call it a quote unquote meathead gym because I could drop weights there and not have to have someone. God help me. No giant alarm and no deadlifting in a Smith machine and nonsense. So, it was a nice place I could put my headphones on, no one would bother me, and I could, occasionally drop a barbell and not feel bad about it. So, right in the middle.
So what were you kind of, because I saw, I would kind of, you'd show up on the feed and PR, blah, 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 and I'm going to get after it today, and I'm hitting, my at one, whatever your body weight is, and I'm doing this much. So kind of, what was going on there? Where did you start? And I don't know if you're still doing the powerlifting, but kind of what was the progression like through, your strength curve and, that kind of thing? I
started doing bodybuilding type splits because that's what you read about doing. So it's 5 days a week and just beating the hell out of your joints in volume. And it got to the point where I got more comfortable doing compound lifts. They're not something I've done for a long, long time. Deadlifts, squats, and bench are just not something I had done forever. I did them back when I was doing judo in college competitively because I needed to be strong. Those girls are strong, man. They grab onto you and it's scary. So once I got comfortable with the deadlift and especially the deadlift and the squat again, it was one of those things where I was just well, you pull some of the powerlifting programs like 5-3-1 and stuff like that, and you just kind of you start with what you're comfortable with form-wise, you fix your form, and then you start working up. You get your working sets of 4 or 6, and you try to bump the weight by 5% every week, and it got to the point where that deadlift of mine that's my lift, I guess. That's just what my body wants to be able to do, and It doesn't bother my knee. It doesn't bother my shoulder. That's the happy lift. Pick the bar up off the floor.
Now,
So
is this something where you kind of trained yourself and you go on YouTube and you go, like that, and just look for form, or did you work with some coaches?
I actually did that all by myself. Yeah, I didn't know anybody who did powerlifting stuff, and a lot of the trainers are more volume-based guys, and no one deadlifts anymore. It makes me sad. It's so sad. But I had to teach myself. But I would take video of myself in a lot of the same ways a lot of people do with jiu-jitsu when they're like training a move over and over. It was the same deal. Like grab the GoPro, take a couple videos, check it against, textbook form and correct as best you can. So, yeah.
So, but something that you kind of, you were trying to get better at, and you were, and all that other stuff, but still didn't fulfill you like martial arts training.
It's not the same. It's frustrating because the whole reason I exercise, a lot of the reason is just channel that anxious, nervous energy somewhere. Because if I channel it somewhere and it goes out of me, I feel better. I can sleep, I can relax, and there's too much time to think when you're lifting. Like um,
No, I've very well. The old joke that I have. I once had a doctor ask me if I'd use steroids, right? Because I have something wrong with one of my eyes that people that abuse steroids get, and I would say if I took my shirt off, you wouldn't ask me that question. So no,
yeah.
I don't have a lot of experience with strength training.
Standing still in gym with your headphones on, like with nobody around to push you or to be working with, like it's you have a lot of time to think. You just do, and that doesn't help me. So, and I don't know, there's something about martial arts and it's really hard to put my finger on, but working with partners and having some trust in people and like seeing a progression that's a little bit less linear almost, that, where you have those bad days and you kind of have to work through them. And it happens in lifting too, but it happens a lot more in jiu-jitsu, at least for me. Like, it's fulfilling. You feel like when you get past one of those weeks or bad months or bad 6 months of training, like that feels good. You feel like you've conquered a mountain. And you don't have so much time to think while you're doing it. You're in it and you're kind of working with somebody and you really can't think about anything else except, oh, that guy's trying to choke me right now. I need to deal with that.
Right, yeah. You're alive and in the moment.
Yeah, it's yeah.
So you go to you're doing your powerlifting, you're driving by and you kind of like the kid at Christmas looking at the trains and like, dad. So it sounds like Don was really just like, hey, yeah, it makes you happy, go do it. So there wasn't really any pushback from your husband to get started?
No, he's super cool about everything. If he knows something really makes me happy and it isn't a
He
question.
is super cool because he owns that badass, like vetted out Camaro
That thing
runs
is his
competitions.
baby. See, that's the thing. When he wanted to buy that Camaro, he texted me like, "Are you okay with this?" And my exact response was, "If this is gonna make you happy, do it. Like just don't. I'd like to keep the house, so as long as we can pay the mortgage, we're cool." But yeah, like it's
He's
the
an
same deal.
accountant, by the way, so I
I
think
know. I was
he'll
not even a little bit worried about it. But like it was one of those things like I immediately will support what makes him happy. He's always the first to jump. He'll always be the first one to tell me, do it. Why are you asking me this question? That's what he said to me. Go do it. So,
No, that's awesome because I mean I think you also as a man it's important that and my wife does it and I'd like to get her started, just her schedules don't allow it, but I'd like to start teaching her some self-defense. But I think he probably feels better if you're actively training,
mhm.
if you're out somewhere alone or with the kids, that you kind of have this ability to kind of defend yourself or be prepared and hopefully, avoid those situations. So there's kind of like an unintended benefit to feeling better about your life, was also kind of acquiring a skill that's really real world related.
Yeah, he feels like he doesn't have to worry as much if I say I'm going out to have a drink with my friend or just at Christmas time walking through a mall parking lot. Some of that stuff is scary, and it got to the point where I hadn't trained for long enough that stuff got scary again. Where you're just like you don't have that confidence that you'd be able to handle the situation. So,
Well, yeah, and it's kind of there's a big difference between training martial arts as a sport, doing self-defense, and then preparing for combatives, right? And a lot of
yeah, I
people
agree.
fail to realize that. Um, you're not quite ready. Like, they talk about the way people react in combat, and we're talking about like, guys in Fallujah, like that. Those guys are ready. They're
Mhm.
combatives prepared. So it's kind of tough to be on alert all the time. But
Yeah.
what martial arts training does is it keeps you not. I'm not going to say kind of scared all the time, but you're kind of like, I'm constantly assessing situations.
Yes.
Okay, what's
Yes.
going on here? All right. All right, boom. This is what I need to do if there's a problem. Like I'm going to have a friend of mine on the show coming up pretty soon, and Somehow he's a DJ, and he's in the podcasting as well. And he was at a bar and he recorded like an altercation, and he was asking me, he's like, well, what would you have done? And I go, man, I would like to say that I would have fucked that guy up, but
Right. You don't know.
right. But the thing is, maybe like physically, I have the ability to do that, right? I've been
Yeah.
training for a long time, but man, and I don't want to give too much of what he and I are going to talk about, but it was interesting the way he handled it, because he asked me what I would have done, and I go, man, I guess it depends on what the guy would have done, because at the end of the day, words are words, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
And if you're going to say something, that's not that big of a deal. But once it kind of progresses past that, then we have to kind of see where the physical leads us. Which
I think that when you're at a training for a really long time, though, you lose that walk into a room, assess a situation feeling. You don't do it as much, and you run out of practice doing it. Even if you just train competitively, like you do have a little bit of an awareness about where your body is in
you know how it is.
space.
You're like, you got to walk in a room, you're like, yeah, I could fuck most of these people.
I could kill that guy. That guy is screwed. You know what I mean? But yeah.
The Bourne guy, Michael Bourne. He's like, yeah, okay, that guy looks like he can handle himself.
Yeah.
There's a shotgun in the pickup truck. Like all that stuff.
Yeah, you do. But especially when you're female, man, you want to be able to at least be assessing the situation all the time, especially in a dark parking lot, especially in a parking garage. Like those are super scary. If you get out of touch with like at least being like, okay, what's around me, just because when you get out of training, you stop doing that mental exercise, you're letting yourself, like, you're opening a possibility that should be closed. So
it leads me into kind of my next quote. When we were in the green room earlier, that's a joke, Elaine. But anyway,
I know.
Women training in the martial arts, right? And something that it's always been difficult to kind of get more women to train for a lot of various reasons. But one of the things, or one of the requests that I get is, well, do you have a program? And a lot of women want to do a program that's like 8 weeks or 10 weeks long. And I'm not a big fan of a program base, because the reality is that the skills that you've acquired in those 10 weeks, you may not need for 10 years, right? And then you're 10 years away from that 10-week course. You're probably going to hurt yourself even worse having had that 10-week course, like that kind of thing. So my question is, as a female martial artist, because you have a black belt in Taekwondo, correct?
Karate, but yes. A striking martial art. It doesn't matter, man. It's the same idea.
Right. So you have a black belt in karate. You have a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. What's your rank in judo?
Brown.
You're a brown belt in judo. So you're kind of like a real world mixed martial artist, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like if you're talking, and specifically to a woman, why would you kind of like, how would you convince a woman, hey, you need to train, and you need to train on a regular basis?
I feel like I could tell people to watch the news these days. Like, it's like every other week, especially if you live in a major metropolitan area where somebody's getting abducted or kidnapped, or, it's terrible. Like, the more of it I see, the more I'm just like, go take a self-defense class. At least know how to get away. And take one every 3 to 6 months. If you just take a free class somewhere, a lot of people do that. They'll offer one free class. Take it every month. Take it every time you see it's free. A lot of people want to give you these tools. You should have them, because bad things happen every single day, and people take advantage of size and strength differences over us. It's just a fact of life. So it's super scary. And, I desperately want, especially my friends who don't train, I'm like, you don't need to do jiu-jitsu. Just learn at least how to get away. That's all I want you to do. And then remind yourself every 2 to 3 months how to do that. So I'd love to see more women train on a consistent basis. That would be great. But I would take just a self-defense class for a lot of people, especially if they live in a city, or watch the news for 15 minutes. It scares me. And I feel like I can take care of myself at least enough, so.
Yeah. And that's one of the things where I think sometimes, unfortunately, it's kind of, so what are the kind of barriers that you had to break through, in the sense of kind of becoming, with some breaks, but a lifelong martial artist? Like, what were some of the things that you kind of had to get over, or what are some of the things that you didn't have to get over that other women might have a problem with, kind of being as comfortable as you are in the settings that you're comfortable in?
I think you have to be okay, especially with where martial arts have gone into this like grappling space. You got to be okay with people being in your personal space, especially men. And some women are just not comfortable with that, because like honestly, it's what, 90 to 80%, of people I train with are men, probably more most of the time,
Yeah,
like
probably yeah, high, it's like Dove soap,
95%. So you really just
99, yeah.
you have to be comfortable with those people in your personal space. If you can't be comfortable with men in your personal space, like I know women who are just like, I don't want them like that close to me. It's a real barrier for them. And it's tricky for
But
me to be like,
the reality of that is though is like if a woman is more likely to be attacked by a man than she is by a woman. So
always my counterpoint. It's like, look, those are the people who are going to be in your personal space. So at least like if you're training with them, like they're safe to you. 99% of the men that I have trained with have never been a problem to me. Like there's some people who are just bullies no matter who they train with, and that's fine. But like 99% of people have been fine, and the men have been like super respectful. So I don't know.
well, that's funny because you just reminded me of a funny story, and it happened to you where I. It's funny how a jujitsu school protects its own and kind of
Mm-hmm.
polices itself. And we were doing takedown drills, and this guy, I
Oh
don't
my
even
God.
remember his name, and I'm
It's
pretty
not.
sure it was you. And
It was either me or Rose.
yeah, I think it was you though, and he mauled you. He mauled you pretty good. And all I remember is Joey Powell pushing one of the lower belts out of the way, saying,
It's my turn.
"It's my turn," and he just killed this guy. You know
they
what I'm
had
saying?
to they had to help him limp out. Like
Yeah,
Joey
yeah,
was mad, and Joey was a big scary dude who was
yeah,
super
yeah.
nice to always super nice to me. He was probably twice my size. But he saw this guy literally lift me off the ground and practically suplex me, like he just wrecked me. And I got up and look, it happens. He took care of business.
No, no, and you
And
didn't. I'm looking at you, and you're like, well, you didn't complain. Like you, I
no,
mean, you were just like, okay, I guess this is what it is. But
I guess
it,
you're a jerk and I'll just avoid you if I can.
right,
But
right.
Joey took that very personally, and these are the types of men I feel like 99% of the guys really do, especially they don't baby the women, but if they feel like someone is being a jerk, they do tend to voice their opinion on the matter.
And so that is one of those instances where 99 out of 100 women don't come back after that.
Correct. Yeah, and the problem is that guy is the 1% at most jiu-jitsu schools. Like most of the men that I've encountered they don't treat me like I'm made of glass, but they're not trying to hurt me. And they like give me room to work, and they help me so much, like such a tremendous amount. Like I've had mostly good experiences. There's always been a couple guys. Those guys usually don't come back because the nice guys
But the
handle it.
Joey Powells of the world, and
Yeah, they
yeah,
handle
yeah,
it.
yeah, they take care of it. So yeah, that is pretty neat the way that kind of works itself out.
Yeah.
So those are probably that was one of the concerns. What do you think might be other concerns for women looking to get into martial arts? Be it, all right, maybe the grappling is just too much.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I don't want to be this close to a guy or him have me. But even just kickboxing or karate or whatever.
I can never figure out why women wouldn't at least just take kickboxing, because in a lot of ways, like that's a pretty good cardio workout. It's more fun than running on a treadmill. I don't know if just group exercise is scary for some women as a general rule. I've never had that problem, so it's really hard for me to gauge that. I think a lot of people have trouble with group instruction. I think it's possible that the idea of like I just don't know. Maybe the idea of learning to fight takes away some of their femininity in their head. It's so hard for me. It's so hard for me to wrap my head around it because it seems like a no-brainer. Just at least learn how to like take a punch and deal a punch. At least.
Right.
Like,
Well, what's been super helpful is kind of like the rise and the cult of personality of Ronda Rousey
yes.
has been helpful to get because now we're getting women that are like Ronda Rousey fans or Gina
Mm-hmm.
Carano fans, and we never had that before. So from that standpoint, that's definitely good stuff. So
Yeah.
anything else you would think kind of off the top of your head that women might have, like things that women might need to get over before they start taking martial arts classes?
There's body image issues there too. I mean, women have this about exercise in general. I've had body image issues in my life. It's like I don't want other people to see me exercise because I don't feel comfortable with myself. You know what I mean? Like it's a super silly thing, and when I say it out loud, it sounds crazy, but a lot of people have that issue. Like I
Yeah,
want to hide in my
nobody
basement.
looks cool doing a deadlift.
No,
Right?
you just look like a monkey picking up a
Right.
bar. Like you don't, but you have to get past that, right? And so some women hide on the treadmill or hide on the elliptical because they figure no one's looking over there at them. And so group exercise, again, it's like people are looking at me. An instructor is watching me do something. That makes me uncomfortable. It's too bad because and Zumba's done a pretty good job of getting women out there in group exercise. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe people would rather dance than punch people. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like people that are like, oh, I'm going to do CrossFit rather than learn martial arts. And the
Yeah.
CrossFit's cool, you know what I'm saying? And like
Yeah.
do it as an addition, but don't do it instead of. Yeah, like when
Yeah,
you
I
do
feel
martial
like
arts, you're acquiring a skill. Not that proper deadlifting form isn't a skill, but when is that going to save your life?
It's not. That's the thing, and it's something that it's nice to kind of have that reminder. Like you own a school. You've probably seen more women come and go than anybody else. Like, what have they ever told you why? Do you
I,
you
I
know?
mean, I mean, a lot of it is not number one, not having that really not very many women coming through because
Well, yeah,
we don't. A lot of the phone calls that we'll get are be looking for. Well, do you do cardio kickboxing? No, we don't.
you're right.
We do. We do Muay Thai. It's a great workout, but you'll be training how to fight, and that
Hmm.
we're pretty honest. I don't want to lie to somebody and say, hey, we do something that we don't, or we don't do something that we do. Um, so a lot of the inquiries that we'll get will be more from a martial arts exercising
Right.
standpoint as opposed to like a self-defense or fighting thing. And then the women that do it, I don't know, like they're gung-ho about it for a couple weeks. And I think sometimes they need a little bit more, that's the feeling that I've gotten. They need a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? A little more, they need to be more motivated a little bit more, but also a little bit differently.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. Yeah, yeah.
so those are some of the things, and we're not very good at that. It's like if you show up, you show up. If you don't, you don't.
I think the thing I always tell Don after I come back from your class on Monday nights is like, I like that Marco just, everybody's the same in that room to you. Like, we're all students, period. I
Right. I
don't get
don't.
treated special because I'm the girl. I appreciate that more than you even know. Like,
No, and
it's a
that's
big
why
deal.
I have conversations with like guys that are professional mixed martial arts fighters. I go, you guys are worthless to me. Like I could care less. You guys, like as I call them, pieces of shit. Like
Must love
and
that.
but no, but seriously, because they want those guys are worse than like a prima donna woman. As I say, because they want to, they're like thoroughbred horses where you need to kind of comb them and put them in their own stall and feed them and then worry about them every minute. I like to, the pro fighters that we have around are great because they kind of get it that it's a bigger sense of community. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's always been my thing. Is like
Hmm.
it's like the guy from Full Metal Jacket. You are all equally worthless to me.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well,
that's
it's nice to feel like even. It's nice. It's the one place that I go because I mean, I'm an engineer. I'm 10% women probably in my field. You get treated like a girl a lot more than you should, or
all
you
right.
get
So
belittled for it. So
let's get into that. So like what are some so you're unconventional to say the least, right?
yeah.
You're a with some pauses, but a lifelong martial artist,
Hmm.
right? You're an engineer. 10% of all engineers are women. You're an avid video gamer. I don't know how. I know more women are getting into video gaming now, but you were probably a little bit on the bleeding edge of being
Yeah.
a hardcore gamer
Yeah.
there, and also podcasting. I don't know what the numbers are for women podcasting, but that's probably more even than I would even imagine. But you do some things outside of your jiu-jitsu hobby. So, what kind of engineer are you? What do you do?
I'm an electrical engineer. So right now I work for a firm that we work with transit. So we work with the railroads, there's a federal mandate that all trains have to be essentially be able to stop themselves in the case of like an operator falling asleep by the end of this year, I think it is. So we're working with a bunch of railroads to help them do that, to put the technology in place to let trains, things that Europe has been doing for a really long time, America, bleeding edge. We're catching up. The trains in this country are bad, man. So I work on a lot of that stuff. I do network design. I've done algorithm work. Like I'm a big
So,
nerd.
so let me ask you. So, just and this is just a personal. The trains in this country are bad because we don't have a very good commuter train system, and that's where most of the technology gets put into first. Or is it bad because we just don't care about the trains?
We have no government help for trains. So they're all privately owned in this country, right?
Right,
SEPTA
Norfolk
owns.
Southern and all that
Yeah,
other stuff. Yeah.
they're individually owned and operated, so their businesses out to make money, and they have no government help or incentive really. Like this mandate came down from Congress, and they gave no money to help them do it. So it's tricky. It's a tricky situation here, where in other countries, like there is a lot of government like help for transit because they value it because it gets people places and helps them get to
Well, right. I
work.
mean, and that's
You
always
know?
been the big thing, and they've always talked about is like we need a better rail system. I know what Elon Musk is talking about this system that he's trying to,
Hmm.
I don't know if it's a train system or it's like those things where you send packages through buildings through
Oh,
tubes.
it's a tube. It was discussed as a tube system. It's very strange. Like, but anything to get it's expensive to drive in this country because gas is so high. It's
Whoa,
expensive to
whoa,
drive
whoa! I filled
everywhere.
my tank under $30 today.
Dude, me too. Blew my mind, right?
Yeah.
I actually think I can drive for cheaper than I can take SEPTA right now. But, in general, like, trains are an efficient way to get people places, and it doesn't make sense that the government wouldn't want in on some of that, make it taxable. I don't understand. But, so I work a lot with transit authorities to just get their systems updated, to get technology in place that isn't there.
So when you say trains, you're talking about subways. You're talking about anything on rails.
Yeah, yep. The trolley system in Philly. We worked with SEPTA on the Green Line. We've worked with them on, all of the R lines. So
like the kid in Indiana Jones and the going through.
yeah, back and forth, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. No, that's what the trains feel like. 99. Don always says the Paco pretty much feels like that every day, which is accurate. So,
What was his name? Short Round? Was that? Yeah, that was Short Round, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Now I have to watch those movies. It's been a while. So yeah.
So you do that for a living.
Mm-hmm.
One of your big kind of hobbies is gaming, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What do you play? What are you known for?
I play a little bit of everything. I grew up playing fighting games. A whole lot of. I remember walking into the arcades when there were still arcades in this country. Remember that?
Where a quarter went somewhere.
Yeah, I remember sitting in there. I was 10, and my mom would give me 4 quarters, and she would say, "Go into the arcades." This was in the mall, like there was still one in the mall. While I'd run an errand, so I would go in there and I would take my 4 quarters, and my mom was like, "You have to leave when your quarters are gone," and she would have to go drag me out because I was just beating 15-year-olds at Street Fighter. Just they would get so mad. Not only was I a 10-year-old, but I was a girl. Are you kidding? It was like 1993 or something like that. I was not the favorite.
So you're kicking ass at Street Fighter, and then then the console wars happen, right?
Oh yeah, wow.
And you own quite a few consoles, don't you?
I think I own them all at this point, the current ones. Anyway.
Oh, okay. You don't have a TurboGrafx 16, do you?
No, we do have an Atari 2600 in this house. That was Don's. I love him.
But tell me when you get a TurboGrafx 16. I have one in my basement right now.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I still don't have that, and I still don't have an old Sega. Like, I never reinvested in a Sega. I still have a Super Nintendo.
Like Sega Master System?
Yeah, I don't have one. We had it both. I don't have either now. We had them growing up, but they've long since been commandeered by my brother. So
Gotcha. Okay.
I got the Nintendo systems.
All right. So right now, what you have? PS4.
Mm-hmm.
Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
Which iteration of the Wii are you currently using?
The Wii U.
Is
The new one. The stupidly named one.
Like a tablet?
Yeah, it has like the touchpad. Yeah, it's real dumb. But I like it. I mean, Nintendo games will always be like warm and fuzzy for me. Mario.
And what else? I mean, those are the 3 majors, right?
Those are the 3 majors. I play games on a PC off and on. I don't
talking about that like was it the Steam? What is that the thing?
Yeah, the Steam boxes. I have like an Alienware, like one of the smaller ones that I kind of treat like a console and just turn it on when I want to play games. Like this is, these are first world video game problems. What am I going to play a video game on tonight?
Right,
it's ridiculous. But yeah.
So mainly fighting games, or you say you play everything?
I play everything now. I grew into sort of just I stretched out into everything. I play some shooters, like I'm not super good at Call of Duty. I mostly just, I get yelled at by 10-year-olds a lot. I don't know. Kids are good at video games.
I can't handle playing. Like we just recently got rid of our cable boxes. We still have like our Apple TV and stuff, but I just reconnected my Xbox 360, and I'm not going to play online. I'm just
don't do that.
Yeah, you realize how good these, like I'm much better at jiu-jitsu than they are but they're way better at sniping me from.
They have way more free time. They only have to do homework. And they don't even do that half the time. So,
and unfortunately, it seems to get pretty ugly in there, too.
Yeah, I don't like the language, especially, oh, God, if they hear a female voice. Like, I used to mute my mic so they couldn't even hear me talk. Like, I'm just, nope, I'm not dealing with you today. Like, no. Right. So, but fighting games, platforming, I'll play anything. I'll play just about anything these days if I think it's fun. And it,
How do you find the time to, work, parent, jiu-jitsu, video gaming?
I don't sleep a lot. That's the thing that usually has to go. I don't know about you, but I don't do a whole lot of that these days. I have terrible insomnia anyway, so I just use that time to play video games if I can't sleep.
What do you do to kind of get through the day?
There's a lot of coffee involved in I'm an engineer. There's coffee involved in my life all the time. So.
I heard something fall. I wanted to make sure it wasn't a child.
I'm 2 floors below, so they're Don's problem for the next hour.
Yeah, I'm the only one home, so like every time I turn, I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh. Is it a burglar or a kid? I can't tell.
Right. Oh, if it's a burglar, there's nothing. Don't worry about it. We don't have.
Just cool. I don't have anything. Can you take the Christmas tree?
Yeah.
Go.
Can you put that in the basement, please?
Yeah, thanks a lot, buddy. So coffee. I mean, like I'll go a couple of weeks without sleeping well, and then I'll have like a week or 2 where my body's just like nope, and I'll shut off. And I don't play a lot of games, and I just sleep. So it goes in waves for me.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Like I need obviously some sleep, but I need a lot less sleep than my wife does. My wife doesn't function very well when she doesn't sleep, especially with the kids and stuff. But yeah, caffeine, the double shot, iced
Oh, that
coffee.
coffee. Yeah,
Yeah.
brewing coffee yourself. Like, where Don will get up the next day and drink the coffee and be like, oh, God, what is this? I'm like, I needed an extra scoop. Like, I don't want to talk about last night. It was a bad night. So, yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, so now we got through your insomnia. Let's talk about the podcasting because you're one of the first people I ever met that actually was doing or does a podcast, and you seem to be a regular guest on. Well, you're a guest on my show now, but you're a regular guest on some other shows. So what's your deal? What's going on in the podcasting world?
Most of the stuff I've done has been about video games, which makes me even more of a minority in podcasting. It's like, let's be a female who talks about video games on a podcast on the internet. So I started a show back long before I had kids. Actually, it was when I was pregnant with Nathan in '08 or '09. And it was about video games. And it's come and gone. It's the same deal as with martial arts. There have been some breaks and stops. And people grab me for other shows, mostly about games. There's one I'm on now that's kind of about games and parenting. So that one's kind of fun because it's talking to other moms about ridiculous things our children do. It's like, this is the reason I buy wine, kids. Come on. Really? Like, it's just, so some of those stories are fun. But yeah.
So now, do you have one that you regularly or are you just a guest now on shows?
I'm regularly on the Mommy Gamers, which is the one about parenting and about video games. And then Some Other Castle is mine. It's kind of been on a hiatus for a while just because my schedule's been bananas with work and weekends and stuff like that. So
the one that you're on regularly now that's up and active, how often does that get put out? When is it on, that kind of thing?
Weekly, and I think that one hits iTunes usually on a Monday or a Tuesday. I'd have to double check. I took a couple of week break there. I'm back on starting on episode 80, which should be out sometime in the next week or two. So, and then I'll be back on there. Most of the shows I like to be on are weekly or bi-weekly. I think weekly is the sweet spot where you keep people engaged and they're not just like, they forget about you after a week.
Here's
the internet.
Yeah, here's another show.
There's 8 million shows. But yeah, if it's consistently out weekly, I feel like people engage and they'll talk to you about it and it's fun. So.
And now, is this something that you're because I know people look at podcasting and they're like, man, I can become a millionaire podcasting.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
I wish I could pay for my own hosting.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Oh my God.
People need to realize that podcasting is fun. It should be something that you do because you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for me, it's in support of a business that does bring in money. I do these kinds of podcasts because it's interesting for me, but it also is very much martial arts related.
Right.
But I don't know, maybe you're better suited. How do people make money podcasting?
I wish I knew the answer to that question because I would be doing it, and then I could, I don't know if I would actually quit my job. I like my job, but in general, it's hard. And the problem is because podcasts have gotten so popular, there are so many. It's like if you make me pay for it or put too many ads in it, I turn you off. So it's so hard. It's
You've heard of Libsyn, right? They're a
podcast.
Yeah. So I listened. This was a couple years ago, but just take a guess. To be in the top, or maybe I even told you this. If you're in the top 50% of podcasts, this was back in 2012, so these are some old stats. But in 2012, if you were in the top 50% of podcasts, how many listens would you have to have had in the first 30 days of a release of a show?
God, probably in the 10,000 range.
200.
200,000?
200.
Oh,
200.
That's
to
it?
be in the top 50% in 2012.
Wow.
Right. So
yeah. So monetize that in any way, and you're not. You know what I mean? That's the problem. That's exactly it. Monetize that. It's the people who ask me now, how do YouTubers make money? Dude, They have to have 200,000 views to make enough money to cover the cost of their equipment. It's crazy.
And sometimes it's funny how that works because I'll look I'll look at somebody how many subscribers they have.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, this guy's got 300,000 subscribers.
Doesn't matter.
But his videos have 400 views.
That's the thing. It matters how many views and how many likes they generate. It doesn't.
Yeah, and I'm like, how do you have 300,000 subscribers and not that many views? It's kind of odd to me. I don't understand the. I don't know if it's a causality or a correlation or whatever the science term is for that.
It depends on how broad their subject matter is. Where the more you stretch your subject matter out, the less people click on each individual video because they grapple onto the things they care about. Just those one or two things, So it's like if I put out a podcast episode about a game and the people just aren't into that game, then I'm not going to get as many hits on that particular episode because in the show notes it says something that they don't care about. So, I usually just make a lot of bad, terrible, funny jokes and try to ride it through with my bad sense of
Sounds
humor.
like you're describing my podcast.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the
Yeah.
same thing, except with a lot more terrible language involved. Like, just, I'm a bad person, But that sometimes people will come back for humor, like if you can consistently give them something to listen to outside of just the discussion. But it's tough. I'll get 500 listens on an episode if I'm having a good episode.
in 2012, you were well into the
Yeah,
top half of
I
our
can
podcast.
guarantee you that I could not pay for my left shoe on one pair of sneakers with that. Like, no way.
Right,
Please.
right, right. So it's interesting because I told you about that one guy, Ray Ortega. He does a good thing. Like he's got a good channel, but he has an interesting thing where he consults people that want to get into podcasting. So he's going about it in a different way. Like he's actually making like a business out of it. Well, Elaine, anything else you'd like to add? We've gone, 15 minutes. This has been awesome.
Yeah, this was a great conversation. I'm pretty stoked to be back at jiu-jitsu, man. I'm pretty happy. This is my happy place.
We're happy to have you.
I'm happy to have all you jerks beating me up again. Stupid bullies. What are you doing? Like giving them like nutrients in the water? Some of your guys are huge now. Like tree men.
But just as long as they're good, I don't care how big they are.
I agree with that, and they're not jerks. To me, that's super important. I'm not getting like crushed just because I'm smaller. I'm just generally speaking, and it's delightful to be back at a place with some rank that cares about helping me learn things. That's nice, not just...
Yeah. No, people want, here's the thing is they want to get you better for two reasons. Number one, because they want to get you better. But number two, because they're selfish because they don't want you to suck.
Yeah, and they also want to get themselves better. And if they're just
100%.
crushing someone over and over, that doesn't help you. That doesn't help me. So, but yeah, I'm in, this is my happy place. I'm more relaxed.
Thank you for being on. I'm going to ask you to email me any of the links for any of the podcasts that you're on, so we could put them in the description.
Will do.
And if anybody watched this show and they liked it, please hit the subscribe button. And you'll get all the updates. And this might be the first audio and video iteration of this podcast, so we're breaking new ground. Hopefully everything worked out well. I have all this new equipment. Elaine was, she held my hand through all the breakdowns.
I got
equipment not working.
Walls of text messages. Look, I feel like people should just subscribe to watch how long it takes you to put the Christmas tree away. I think that's a legitimate reason. So.
Elaine, thanks so much.
Thank you, Marco.